Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio, episode 111 of Dark Side of the Stream. I don't know if that's evil, but
I think if it was four ones, it means something good, right?
Four ones.
If you see 11, and that's supposed to be like the universe is on your side.
I mean, it's just
somebody dead's trying to talk to you.
I think we've said it many times. It's like
somebody dead just moved my phone.
Yeah, CJ just slammed his phone down and really pissed off the spirits in this building. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 111. We're talking about the first 3 episodes of season 3 of the recently redone Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. And so each segment, this one, the second one, and the third one, we're going to talk about each episode, and the fourth one, our reviews, and we'll watch next week. Episode 1 of this season is called Mystery at Mile Marker 45. It talks a story about a very promising, talented, she played volleyball. I think she's a volleyball player.
I think that's what
and she was struck by a train 4 miles from her home.
Or was she?
It was very, very odd. But we'll get into that, and then I'll tell you what I think happened at the end of it. Well, what do you think happened? Do you think, because ultimately what happened was this girl, her family was like, no, she was perfect, everything was cool, no big deal, we didn't see this coming. She did have a breakup, but it was amicable and she sounds cool. But then come to find out she had stolen someone's credit card and used them to buy a pair of shoes, and that's what kind of set off this chain of events where she just walked off the property. They see her walking off on camera, and then her uncle finds her in pieces, literally next to a train track. God, wouldn't that suck? That's something you're never getting over, dude. Sorry.
Yeah. But it 50-50. It could be foul play, or it could be.
Still haven't found the shoes or the pants. There's an article of clothing they still haven't found, and I can't remember what it was.
It's just that these kind of things just don't add up. You know what I'm saying?
From the one perspective, if you're going to sell it in the show, definitely sold it like there was something sinister going on here, because they look at the path that she would have had to walk to get to the train tracks. They kind of followed it in where they started to find the stuff that she had dropped along the way. And her family, God love them, and you feel for them. They're never going to give up on this. They don't think that their daughter committed suicide.
But I mean, maybe she didn't even mean to. Maybe it's drugged up or something.
Could have been laid up there. That's the one hand. The other hand of this spectrum, which me, when I watch these things, I was like, there's got to be conversation about this somewhere online. I believe it was Reddit, and take it with a grain of salt. But from what I understand, a lot of people in the area said, or at least claimed, that the producers did not show a lot of stuff that she was actually doing. She was actually in a really dark place. The breakup was a lot worse than they let on. Right. She was actually doing into some self-harm, like cutting herself and stuff like that. So when you leave that stuff out, then of course you're like, oh my God, why would this perfect teenager
go
jump in front of
this out?
You want the family's cooperation, be on video, talk about what happened.
Leave out the dirt.
You got to leave out the dirt. Yeah. I think that's what's going on. And really left a bad taste in my mouth, because whenever I read all that stuff, I was like, you guys are supposed to sell the whole story.
If Unsolved Mysteries ever does a story about me, guys, please tell them all the dirt.
Don't worry about me. I'll be like, I don't care. We're gonna talk about everything.
Don't leave out any dirt. I would not leave out any dirt myself. My epitaph would be the dirt.
No, it would be the whole thing. But at the end of the day, that one kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, because I was like, well, then they left all that stuff out because they wanted cooperation from the family. Now, if they went it full hard and said, this isn't and maybe this is all hearsay too. Maybe that's not true. But if one quick look online and it comes across like, yeah, okay.
Which is basically just a little fact check, when you see something, if I see something on Facebook, I'm not going to click the link if it's a weird story. I will just Google that subject
and start searching it on your own.
Find my own sources. And usually, people will click the link and, oh my God, I can't believe this. Yeah. One quick little Google search would save you all the stress and heartache.
But some people just don't even want to do that. So at the end of the day, I think that unfortunately she probably committed suicide. Case closed. And I'm really not sure of all the unsolved mysteries out there, this is the one they went with. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, it wasn't any riveting thing.
No, it wasn't. And it was kind of like, for the first one, I was like, this isn't great. But the next one
was the next one UFOs?
Dope. Yes. Okay. So we will talk about some UFOs next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio, Dark Side of the Stream, episode 111. discussing Unsolved Mystery Season 3, episodes 1 through 3, because they've released them.
Looking in the sky for UFOs.
You should, in this case, be looking at your radar, because that really is what the story was about. A kid who worked for the National Weather Service in Michigan in the early 90s was doing his thing. He worked his butt off for, when you get these guys that are like, my whole life, I knew I was always going to be a radar technician.
Yeah.
Like, dude, really? Like, that's what you want. That's what I mean. Like, I get it. Like,
in elementary school, he's like drawing radar
so what do you want to
pictures
be? A
with dots.
firefighter? What do you want to be? An astronaut? Jason, hey, little Jay, what do you want to be? I'm going to sing in a band. And then here comes Mike. I want to be a radar technician. Like, dude, come on. But whether that's true or not, like, you hear this guy's story. He busted his butt. This not an easy gig to get into. He gets into it, and he's watching radar, kind of near Lake Michigan, and just to see storms. And then all of a sudden, this night happens, and people start calling in like, we're seeing UFOs, and it's all over. I mean, that was one of the things I thought was crazy. They had all of the 911 calls, and they just start playing them back to back to back to back to back to back.
So similar. Some people, everybody's seeing this thing.
Some people freaking out. Some guys are
police officers seeing it. Like, everybody's like, what?
And they're following it, and it's just super, super wild, because it could the phenomenon that everyone's seeing in real time could be explained by something. But where this guy comes into play is that the dude had radar, okay? And he had it pointed out towards kind of like Lake Michigan, and it would sweep. And when these things came into view, he followed them for 3 or 4 hours, maybe longer, watched their formations, watch how they would break apart.
They kept doing formations. Yeah. And then the weird thing that he said, which is kind of similar to this Tic Tac stuff that these Navy pilots see, these ships knew where his radar cone
and they
was,
would stay in it.
And they would stay inside of it. Yeah, they would go to the edge of it and then come back, go to this edge of it.
Every time it would move, they would move with it.
Yeah, which is very trippy.
Very, very crazy. And what he described on the radar also was part of what all the witnesses would describe as far as how they would break, how fast they would move. But then he would also be able to see like elevation and like how fast they were going and how quickly. And he was like, it was just unbelievable. The other thing I thought about this episode, which by the way was called Something in the Sky, was that how they kind of just disappeared over Lake Michigan. You know what I mean? And my thought has always been like, if you're an alien species and you can traverse galaxies and universes, and you've got that sort of technology to travel, I mean, we're not hiding in the sky where we can all see. We're going to go in the place that 80% of hasn't been discovered yet or explored, and that would be the ocean. And Lake Michigan is huge. It's literally its own ocean in a sense. And so, they could have just went straight down and said, we're done screwing with them tonight. The unfortunate thing about this story was that it wasn't like now where the government's saying,
talk about it.
Government's like, dude, if you have something, send it to us. We want to know about it. Let it, and we'll investigate it.
Yeah. Back then it was like, hush, hush, you're crazy. I like it. Even my kid was watching this one with me. She was sucked into this episode. And like, when he went back to work the next day and they had hung paper plates like flying saucers all around his office. Dude, that's such a J move, man, right there. I was like, that's solid play. She was dying.
I felt so bad for him, though.
I know, man.
A scientist, the last thing that you want is to have your mind question whether you're crazy
integrity
or any of all the stuff that you go along, because you have to be believed when you say up is up and down is down. And if you think, aliens exist, especially at this time, everyone's gonna be like, dude, that guy thinks aliens exist. I don't believe anything he says. And your credibility's gone. So inevitably, the National Weather Service said, you know what, dude, it's you probably, if you want to keep this job, you're gonna have to relocate. And so he had to relocate to Atlanta for the rest of his career, leave his friends and family in Michigan. Now, at the one hand, I feel bad for him, especially at the ridicule he got. But also, on the other hand, Atlanta's like the mecca of National Weather Service in the country. So it wasn't like
he probably got a raise, man.
He definitely got to move up. I mean, it's Atlanta, Georgia, whatever. But at the same time, and then he retires, comes back, and he's interviewing all these people for the episode. And it was definitely an interesting one, to say the least, especially from his perspective. We've got one more to talk about. Dark Side of the Stream next on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio again. Unsolved Mysteries Season 3, episodes 1 through 3 is the subject of today's Dark Side of the Stream. And we're to the last episode in the first 3. They're releasing them in chunks of 3, which I really like. It's called Body in Bags. And this person who committed this crime is still On the run.
Could be working with us.
Could be. Jay knows a thing or two about
Crazy girls,
crazy women that would literally shoot you in the head, chop you up, and leave you on the side of the road.
Yeah, I've been threatened like that before.
You've been in relationships like that before. You still kind of looking over your back.
I've been in relationships where I've been threatened that something would be cut off.
Oh, God, wouldn't that be the solution to all your problems?
Yeah. Well, for me, it'd be a
lot easier for him.
Shave my head, cut off my wang, and I'm a good kid.
That's the only way that we can get him to behave.
In the world.
The only way we could get him to behave was to do that. Is saying something. But yes, it tells a story about the guy who, by all accounts, is a really cool dude. He was a really good member in the community, kind of working on his own fashion label, but he also had just a regular 9-to-5 job, had a really good kid who was a football player, and had a really good core of family and friends, and then starts seeing this girl who, by all accounts, was extremely jealous. She slashed his tires because he took his cousin out to a movie instead of her. I mean, it's like his cousin. That should have been a red flag. They say that he was about ready to break it off, and then he goes missing, only to come and find out that they find his body cut up in pieces all along the freeway.
Wow, this is like the Jodi Arias thing.
Yeah.
There's red flags.
Big time red flags.
But sometimes, you don't look at the flags just because it's so good. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I can't roll my eyes long enough and big enough for that comment.
Dude, sometimes guys will do that. Yeah, there's red flags, but I'm going to go back one more time.
It's not worth it. It's like you just sound like a crackhead. Like, one more time, I'm going to go hit the crack pipe.
Very similar.
Just one more time.
Play with fire.
And then I'm done. Then I'm going to go to treatment. I'm going to get out of this.
Sometimes you get burned.
Every single time. And it's just
not
worth putting yourself in the position.
Dangerous
I just don't understand it. But yeah, the crazy thing about this story is that when they were looking for him, his son actually went to the apartment, and they think that he was probably either shot dead in the room or she'd already began the process of chopping him up. Can you imagine finding that? Going to find your dad or your mom chopped up in a bedroom?
Well,
he's lucky, though, because I think she probably would have shot him, too, if he would have went in there.
Chopping up is, that alone is a tough task, I think, to chop a body. I mean, I've never chopped any deer or anything like that. But
dude,
I would assume that it's probably a gnarly process.
My mom was a trauma nurse for a really long time, and the way she described like either amputations or like having to refix massive breaks, so she's like, these guys are like literally pulling, and this is surgeons, men, all big, well-built guys, like just like, I mean, it's not easy. And this is done by a female who obviously was so angry and so enraged that she was able to chop up another human being, put him in suitcases, and dump him on the side of the road. She would go on,
allegedly, I guess.
No, not allegedly. They know it was her all day. Because she's on the run. They followed her to as far as New York, where she checked into a hotel, and then after that, she completely disappeared. My theory is she is currently in Canada somewhere, working as a traveling nurse, obviously, because you can get to Canada within hours from New York. She wasn't technically on the run yet. I think she still had about a day or two before they put the APB out on her. But when they did and they followed her trail, they saw where she went. But that's where the trail goes cold. And I bet you 10-1 she's in Canada right now. 10-1 all day. Just being a traveling nurse, because she was a nurse, and nurses are hard to come by. She could be working out at some remote fishing village in Canada somewhere. They don't. She could be here. It's possible that she's still in the country.
She could have been in the machine gun show last Saturday.
She could have been. But again, the thing is, like, that if she seemed like she was intelligent enough to put herself in a position where she could probably get by. But yeah, this woman who is allegedly accused of committing this horrendous crime is still currently on the run, which I was like, damn, as they were going through toward the end of the episode, I was like, I can't believe it. She's still out there.
Be careful, boys.
All right. Well, we'll talk about our reviews on this first 3 episodes of Unsolved Mysteries and what we'll be watching next, Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio, episode 111, Dark Side of the Stream, and we are discussing Unsolved Mysteries Season 3, episodes 1 through 3 in this segment. Jay, what was your missing? Okay, we're gonna do how many UFOs on radar did you give this first 3?
First 3?
Yeah.
Well, the UFO episode carried the load, I felt.
Okay, but did it make you want to watch more Unsolved Mysteries?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. So we'll watch the next 3.
So you're gonna do
my pick will be the next
3 or 4, 3.5?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, three and a half.
Three and a half UFOs.
Three and a half UFOs on radar.
I agree. I would have given it a solid 4, but the 0.5 that I'm going to take off is for that first episode because I was like, come on, guys.
You feel duped a little
Stop
bit.
trying to sell this story. Like, I get what you're doing and I get what you wanted and I get how you wanted these people involved and all that stuff. But dude, your job is to be a journalist and tell the story so that we can decide or help you solve this mystery. If you're just going to push it in that direction, your credibility
give us
with me.
all the evidence.
Give us all the evidence.
They put the phone number at the end if you know anything.
Yeah, when a bunch of people are calling after that one going, hey, man, I knew that she was way more into stuff than they're saying.
Give us all the evidence so we can help you.
Yeah. So you want to watch the next 3 then?
Sure, yeah.
All right. It's badass. I can't wait to talk to you about the Navajo X-File, guys. That episode is so dope. And it gave me a really cool perspective on just life in general and the lack of stuff that we actually understand. As always, you can stream these online, 1047thecave.com, on our 104.7 The Cave app. Watch us live on YouTube or Facebook every Thursday at 9 a.m. It's Dark Side of the Stream. I'm Mike the Intern. This is Jay Stevens reminding you
we watch
movies so you don't have to. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.